Hello again and welcome to another Warhammer 40k Imperial Guard 8th edition tactics video. Today we shall be continuing our look at the Index Imperium 2 Astra Militarum units. And interestingly enough guys, we've kind of finished the Imperial Guard, or at least the pure Imperial Guard units, with our episode last time looking at the Catachan Jungle Fighters. Technically now we're on to sort of like a mini sub-faction, the Officio Prefectus. But to me and you and everyone else, we're looking at the Commissars. So Commissars have kind of been given their own section now. They are, if you look at the faction keywords, they are faction keywords Imperium, Astra Militarum and Officio Prefectus. Probably butchering how you say that, apologies. The thing about this is it's interesting is because it just means that if you wanted to, you can, because you could take like a detachment of just these guys. If you could somehow do it, you'd take like, for example, like a high command detachment, and you'd just take like 5 Lord Commissars, and you could take those 5 Lord Commissars and use them alongside your Space Marines or Scutari or whatever. I don't know why you would, but you could. Okay, like I said, I don't know why you would, but you could. Anyway, without further ado, let's get straight into it. So, first unit we're going to look at is the Lord Commissar. Now, he has remained a HQ choice, and he has retained his pretty beastly stats from last time. He has Weapon Skill 2+, Ballistic Skill 2+, of course only Strength 3, Toughness 3, but he's got 4 wounds now, so +1 wound over what he used to have, and he has 3 attacks. Now, interestingly, he's gone down to Leadership 9, but what you've got to remember is everyone has sort of gone down by 1 leadership now, so it's not actually that bad. And he comes with 4+ save, so essentially he comes with Carapace armor included. Now he must buy a bolt pistol and a power sword, which is interesting. Power sword, guys, just a quick reminder for you, it's strength user but AP -3, so this guy will probably be struggling to wound things with only his strength 3, but any wounds that he does get through are going to kill someone, which is good. Now, this model may replace its power sword with up to 2 items from the Astra Militarum melee weapon list. That's interesting. So you can replace your power sword with like a power fist and a power axe, or a power fist and a power maul. But interestingly, what we've got to remember is you could also, if you wanted to, replace the power sword with power sword and power fist. The reason I say that is because there is like one of the old-timey Commissar models, one of my favourite ones, the one that I used for Commissar Cole in the Blood and Shadows narrative campaign, which has got a power fist and a power sword. Now, back in 6th and 7th edition, you never would have wanted to take power fist and power sword on a Commissar. It would have been way too many points. But now with melee weapons for the guard being so cheap, just being ridiculously cheap. I mean, if we look at a power fist, it's only 10 points, and a power sword is only 4 points. So for less than the price of the old style power sword, you can now take power fist and power sword. And you might be thinking to yourself, well, why would you want to do that? And I will reply by saying it gives you flexibility. You're not spending a huge amount of points, and you can still retain that beautiful WYSIWYG look. But at the same time, if you do find your Commissar in a scrap, which you probably will, when people will figure out ways of getting your Commissars into combat and stuff. It can be a nasty surprise to them to come across one rocking like a power fist or something. So that's, just something to bear in mind. Anyway, carrying on. He can replace his bolt pistol with 1 item from the Astra Militarum range weapons list. Remember, guys, there is now no point, I mean 0 point, in keeping your Commissar with the bolt pistol. Commissar, this goes for Lord Commissar and regular Commissar. There is literally no point, because it costs 1 point for a bolt pistol and 1 point for a bolter. And let me tell you, you're going to use the bolter time after time. And because now having pistol and close combat weapon gives you no bonuses, there's no point, you might as well always take the bolter. Okay, guys, so just when writing your list, you don't need to model anything any differently. No one will really care. But when writing your list, just make sure that you take the bolter instead. It just makes sense from a tactical point of view. Okay? Because again, you don't really want these guys in close combat. You don't really want to be buying them any sort of power weapons. But if you have to, then whatever. But most of the time, you don't really want to be gearing these guys up for close combat anymore. Okay? Now, Aura of Discipline. All friendly Ashton time units in 6 inches of the Commissar can use the Commissar leadership instead of their own. Great. Also has the Refractor Field ability. This model has a 5+ invuln save. Great. And Summary Execution. Friendly Ashton time units within 6 inches of a Commissar can never lose more than 1 model as a result of any single failed morale test. Okay, guys. That is huge. That's absolutely massive. You know, before 8th edition was released, I was going on about how bullshit Battle Shock was, and that if Commissars didn't just stop it, then we were fucked. Well, Games Workshop must have, I don't know, must have heard some whisperings on the internet or something, or maybe they have their head screwed on straight, and Games Workshop have basically said, look, we know you infantry commanders out there, we know you guard infantry commanders out there don't want to get fucked by Battle Shock. Here is the key to success. Basically, to sum this, to those of you that don't really understand, or maybe haven't grasped Battle Shock, how it works is, at the end of each turn, each player turn, so your turn and your opponent's turn, every model that you have lost, you must take a morale check. You must take a morale check. Doesn't matter, whatever, you must take a morale check. For every model that you've lost, you then also roll a d6 and you add those two together. So for example, let's say you lost 10 conscripts and you rolled a d6 and got a 5, you would have lost 15 conscripts. You would have rolled a 15 in total. Now, to work out, so that's step 1. Step 2 is you then take your leadership and subtract it from that number. So in this case, you would take 15, and with the conscript, you would subtract 4, which would mean 11. Now that remaining number, which in this case is 11, would normally be the number of men that just run away from the back of the unit. They die, they get removed. And the big problem is that, you know, I was saying, like, if this wasn't managed, then you could lose like 20 men from a conscript blob, and the rest would just run away. You'd be taking double casualties every turn. Now, thanks to the Commissar, we don't have that problem anymore. Instead, this is what happens. You lose 10 conscripts, okay? You roll a 5, so you're losing 15 guys. So you get 15, okay? Now, instead of subtracting your leadership and being like, oh shit, I'm going to lose like 11 guys, you say, my unit of conscripts is within 6 inches of this Commissar, so instead of losing 11 guys, I can only ever lose a maximum of 1. And this represents the Commissar executing someone, blam. So instead of losing 11 guys, you lose 1 guy. And that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you had 50 conscripts at the start of the turn, and you lost 48 of them in one go, you'd still only lose 1 more. Does that make sense? You still have 1 guy left. Commissars are absolutely bunker busting, amazingly important for Imperial Guard. I would say that a lot of the hate that's getting directed towards Imperial Guard, a lot of the hate that's getting directed towards conscripts, isn't the conscripts' fault, it's the Commissars' fault. Because people are trying to rely on Battle Shock to like thin out hordes, and instead Commissars are there just being like, nope, just 1 guy, not 10 guys. So really, really powerful guys. Can't stress that enough to you. For those of you that maybe, you know, haven't quite followed exactly what I'm saying, let me give you a very quick bit of advice. If you are taking 50 to 100 infantry, make sure that you are taking 2 to 4 Commissars. Okay, if you're taking a blob of 50 conscripts, make sure you have a Commissar backing them up. If you've got 3 or 4, I'd say for every 3 infantry squads you have, you want a commissar. Okay, so if you're running 8 to 9 infantry squads, you really want to be running 3 commissars to back them up. Okay, trust me. That's a general rule of thumb. For every 3 infantry squads, you want a commissar. For every conscript blob, big blob that you have, 30 plus, you want a commissar. Okay? You want to have a lot of commissars, guys. They're going to be really useful. Now, so that's the Lord Commissar. The basic Commissar, go over this guy very quickly because he's basically he's like a scaled down version of the Lord Commissar. He only hits on a 3+, weapon skill, ballistic skill, and he's got 1 wound less, and he's got 1 leadership less, and he's only got a 5+ save. So he is literally just a scaled down version. He comes armed only with a bolt pistol, and he may take up to 2 items from the Ashram Militar melee weapon list. Doesn't need to swap anything out. He just may take it. And he may replace the bolt pistol with an item from the Ashram Militar range weapons list. Now he has Aura of Discipline, same as the Lord Commissar, and he has Summary Execution, same as the Lord Commissar. Very, very important to remember, guys, he does not come with a Refractor Shield. He has no 5+ invulnerable save. Okay? Only the Lord Commissar comes with the Refractor Shield out of the 2. Okay? So, very important to remember that. I've seen people getting that mixed up, and it's important that you don't get it mixed up. Now, a quick word on plasma pistols. Plasma pistols on Lord Commissars and Commissars are now viable. Okay? Perfectly viable because they're only 5 points each, and you're going to be hitting on a 3+ or 2+, so that's absolutely great. My one word of advice is don't overcharge them. Never, ever, ever overcharge them. Because if you roll a 1, you will kill your Commissar, and then the rest of your line will start collapsing, and it's just not worth it. So by all means, feel free to take plasma pistols on your Commissars, but remember, do not overcharge. Don't even risk it. Even if you're re-rolling 1s, don't risk it. Your Commissars are too valuable. Okay? Now, the last thing I want to talk about... Oh, I should mention the difference in points between the 2 different Commissars. That's obviously very important. So, a regular Commissar is 30 points, but you've got to add 1 in for his bolter or bolt pistol, so he's 31 points. And a Lord Commissar is 50 points. You've got to remember you're paying for the bolt pistol and you're paying for the power sword, which is actually 55 points. Now, I have yet to really find much reason to take a Lord Commissar. I just let you know, I've been getting along absolutely fine just using regular Commissars because I'm not using them for their combat abilities. I just want them for the summary execution ability. Now, the last thing to mention, Ordo Prefectus, Officio Prefectus unit to mention is Commissar Yarrick. Commissar Yarrick has remained his beastie awesome self. He's had another price reduction. He's steadily getting cheaper as each edition goes by. He's now only 130 points, and that includes all his war gear. His war gear is a bolt pistol, a storm bolter, a power claw, and a bale eye. Okay? Now, he has the same stats as a Lord Commissar, except for he is toughness 4. That's the only thing you need to worry about. 2+, 2+, 3, strength 3, 4+, wounds 4, attacks 3, leadership 9, 4+ save. Easy. Now, his we've got to remember is you're very rarely going to use that bolt pistol unless he's stuck in combat, and then you will use it. And what you've got to remember is his bale eye is also a pistol, so you're not going to be using that really either, because it's only, it's only a 6-inch range. But the bale eyes, it's just a hotshot lads pistol, guys. It's been made very simple. It's just 6-inch range, pistol 1, strength 3, AP -2, damage 1. So there you go. Storm bolter, as we know, guys, it's 24-inch range, rapid fire 2, strength 4, AP -0, damage 1. Now, his power claw works pretty much exactly like a power fist. It is Melee, strength times 2, AP minus 3, D3 damage. When attacking this weapon, you must subtract minus 1 from the hit roll. So Yarrick's typically going to be hitting on a 3+ in combat. That's okay. Now he comes with the same Aura of Discipline special rule and the same Summary Execution special rule as other Commissars, but he also comes with 3 other very important special rules. Number 1, he has retained his classic rule, Iron Will, which means every time Yarrick loses his final wound, roll a d6 on a 3+, that wound is not lost. Very simple. Very, very simple. Now, what you've got to remember is it specifically says wound. Okay. Now, some of you, please feel free to correct me on this, but to me, that implies that this 3+ roll is taken before damage is calculated. Now, I could be wrong, and that could get pretty confusing, because what if he's on full wounds and he gets hit by something like a las cannon? I don't know. I think in that case, you would have to take all the damage, and maybe his... yeah, that would be interesting. How I would play this, guys, is, let's say Yarrick, if Yarrick is on 1 wound and he gets hit by a weapon that does multiple damage, you just roll the 3+ once, because it's the last wound. Okay? Maybe. I might be wrong here. If Yarrick is on multiple wounds, let's say 4 wounds, and he gets hit by a las cannon, and he has to take 6 damage, then what I would say is you would just roll your invuln. Let's say you failed all your invuln saves. That would mean he would lose 4 wounds. On the last basically you'd have to roll your saves if he's on full wounds, you'd have to roll your power field saves, which is his next rule, which is 4+ invuln save. You'd have to roll those like one at a time, and then each time it got down to him taking 1 more wound, he would then do it. He would then roll his 3+. Does that make sense? So what I'm saying is, if he got hit by 6 damage, and you would have to roll his invuln save one at a time to work out when his last wound is lost. Okay? So I don't know how it would work when he's on 1 wound. Maybe you'd only roll it once. I don't know. It's interesting. Anyway. That is one that I would need your feedback on, guys. Now, I've already touched upon his other special rule, which is he has a 4+ invulnerable save. And it has one more special rule called Hero of Hades Hive. Now, I really like this rule just because it's fluffy as fuck. Hero of Hades Hive. You can reroll hit rolls of 1 made for friendly Ashen Military units within 6 inches of Commissar Yarrick. So he has basically got the same rule as Harker. But obviously Harker's only 50 points and Yarrick's 130 points, so there is a big difference. However, with Yarrick, you may reroll any failed hit rolls for friendly Ashen Military units within 6 inches of Commissar Yarrick when attacking orcs. So the good thing about Yarrick is that he is tougher. If we take a look at Sergeant Harker, he is tougher than Sergeant Harker. He has more wounds than Sergeant Harker. And he's a better save than Sergeant Harker. He also has Summary Execution and Aura of Discipline. So there's all these things that, over Sergeant Harker. And then he also has the ability to reroll ones like Sergeant Harker. But then in the tournament, let's say there's a good chance with how powerful orcs have become that you'll face orcs. There's a good chance that his Hero of Hades Hive mode is going to go like supercharged. And you're just going to be rerolling hits, which makes a huge difference. So, guys, that's it. That is all the commissars covered. I hope I've gone into enough detail for you guys. Of course, tell me what you guys think. Tell me, have you guys been running multiple commissars? Have you guys been getting away with just 1 or 2? What do you think is that nice balance between spending too many points on commissars and having enough commissars? My personal balance I found is when I was at that tournament, I had 1 commissar that was using his bubble for 1 conscript blob and 2 infantry squads, so for about 50 infantry. But tell me what sort of ratio commissars to infantry you guys have been having, and also give me your thoughts and opinions on Yarrick's Iron Will special rule. You know, how does that work? I'm not 100% sure on that. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching, and I will see you guys next time.